He has labored, he has suffered.
At long last, the battle has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever.
Ghana's illustrious leader, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, led Ghana to independence from the British colonialism on March 6, 1957.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah came to the Gold Coast in December 1947 and brought a new method of organization into the independence struggle, which actually frightened the colonial authorities. This led to him being imprisoned after he had declared positive action, and it enabled him to bring together most of the people of these countries, which culminated in the creation of the modern state of Ghana. This actually frightened the imperialists and the colonial authorities, because it was a new method of organization which was being replicated elsewhere in Africa, and which led to the liberation of other African states, both in the 50s as well as in 1960, when 17 African states became independent. And of course, he helped the states of Guinea and Mali when they were under aggression by the erstwhile colonial state France, for having dared opt for independence instead of being part of the French.
And supporters of the growing movement for Africa's liberation and unity. It is good for our cause to have a periodic meeting of this kind to examine our position in the great struggle to rid Africa completely and forever of imperialism and its handmaidens, colonialism and neo-colonialism.
Again, in December of 1958, there was an All-Africa People's Conference, which brought about all the liberation movements and freedom fighters from all over African states to come to Ghana to have a meeting, which culminated in the creation of the Bureau of African Affairs, which gave material support to and refuge to the liberation fighters of the African states.
This mid-20th century is Africa's. This decade is the decade of African independence. Forward then to independence. To independence now. Tomorrow, the United States of Africa.
Domestically, as soon as he became leader of government business in 1951, the first budget for a colonial entity within the British Empire was created for the Gold Coast. He also launched the 5-year development plan subsequently, which brought about unprecedented infrastructural development in our country. One of the first infrastructural developments in our country which he brought about was the building of the Adomi Bridge, and its political significance and the essence of it was to make a loud statement that the Gold Coast colony and Transvaal Togoland were one and indivisible, and which was the basis for the creation of the modern state of Ghana. He also built health facilities. Example, he expanded the Kolebu Hospital. He built the Okonfa-Noche Hospital, and lots of other health facilities. Health campaigns to fight against certain common diseases which were widespread in our country, like yaws, elephantiasis, guinea worm, were launched. Smallpox as well. And these were all eliminated in our country within a short time. And this was all even before independence. Adult mass literacy campaign in order to ensure that both information and literacy in numeracy and reading was taken to the countryside, to the mass of the people of our country. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah didn't just stop at that. He looked at the workers' front and helped the Trade Union Congress to consolidate, so that by 1958, the first Industrial Relations Act was passed. Most house trade unions, that's little trade unions, were consolidated into big unions. They were given the check-off system, and they were given the right to strike. And of course, the minimum wage was introduced in order to help low-income workers of a country. When you get to the agricultural scene, the Cocoa Development Bill, which of course was also used to get money to finance most of the development of this country in the 1950s, was passed. And the Cocoa Marketing Board was nationalized. And a massive extension service to service the cocoa industry was undertaken in our country. It led to, for example, the fight against the swollen shoot disease, which was destroying cocoa, the mainstay of our country, economy, by replanting it and giving all sorts of incentives to the cocoa farmer. So when you talk within the social sphere too, theoretically, Kwame Nkrumah made great achievements. He initiated African personality. Why was the African personality initiated? During the slave trade era, white supremacists in Europe and elsewhere had brought about the theory of racial supremacy. And that had been a weapon which had been used by colonialism in order to consolidate their rule over the African. There was a need for the African to regain his confidence, to understand his history, and to know where he had come from as far as the creation of civilization. And the works of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, especially on African personality, just opened a path towards that. Again, the young pioneers were created to be able to enable the young people of modern Ghana then to be disciplined, to have love of country, to have love of work, and to be able to live in peace amongst each other. Other achievements of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, especially economically, which sent shivers amongst the colonial people, was his attempt to ensure that the model of development changed drastically from we being hewers of wood and drawers of water and suppliers of raw materials of primary.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians. the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah.
Thank you wherever you are across the country and watching us live on Pan-African television. If you are listening to us, we're still on the same platform. And a big thank you to the several other radio platforms that have provided their channels for us to broadcast live. The mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI, live from the studios of Pan-African television. My name is Sena Nombo. It's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of the show. A big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM, our major radio partner here in the Greater Accra region, for giving us their platform. A big thank you to Volta One TV in Ho, the other radio station, TV station that is actually broadcasting us live. A big thank you to Global FM also in Ho. A big thank you to Shine FM in Akachi. A big thank you to Nyewasi Radio in Ketekrachi, among several other affiliates across the country as we go on. Radio Kitaon is in Saboba. Bewa Radio is in Yendi. As we go along, I'll be sharing some of the radio stations with you, but they know we are very grateful to them. We are live on social media, specifically Facebook and YouTube. On Facebook, you can get us. The name is Pan-African Television. Pan-African Television will get us. We are also live on YouTube by the same name. If you go to the Facebook channel, you can share your comments with us, and I'll read it as we go along the show. This morning, of course, you just watched a very brief documentary on Ghana's Day of Shame. This week was exactly 55 years when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966. So we're celebrating, we are marking actually, that we mark that day this week, and then we are going back and looking at the impact that he has had on our movement forward. And we'll be discussing that as our major topic today. And then we'll spend some time talking about issues of diverting, specifically the claim by the Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources that Accra is on course to being the cleanest city in Africa. Do you see the evidence? We'll spend some time on that. And then we'll end with the grand welcome that we gave to the vaccines that are in the country, 600,000 vials that we have in the country, and the change that to make to our management of COVID-19. Joining me in the studio this morning to have the discussion on these issues is Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper, and also here at Pan-African Television, and a regular panelist on the show. A big thank you to Dr. Amma Brown Kluche, who has joined us this morning. She is a lecturer at the Physics Department of the University of Ghana, and she's joining us. And we get to see Mujib Rahman after what seems like quite a long break. Mujib Rahman is a member of the New Patriotic Party's communication team, and then sitting very close to me is ALHAJI Inusa Husseini. Very interesting. Well, we'll talk about other issues as we move along. But a big thank you to the gentleman and the lady for joining us this morning. And we start off the discussion straight ahead and talk about Ghana's Day of Shame and the historical significance of that overthrow, how it has affected our forward march. And I start from my left with ALHAJI Inusa Husseini, who is a former member of parliament for Tamale Central, immediate past. ALHAJI, good morning.
Well, good morning. And let me thank you and your viewers for the opportunity once again to appear on this very educative political talk show. And to say that I'm delighted once again to be on the program with my brother Kwesi Pratt and my other co-panelists. Well, some of us are definitely products of Nkrumah's policies. And so you will understand if during the course of my submissions I show some passion. Because in 1957, when we attained independence, there was a spatial gap, development gap, between the North and the South. The South had educated its citizens and there were many of them who had attained higher education. The North was very undeveloped. It's still undeveloped up to now. It's still trying to catch up with its southern counterparts. So Nkrumah came in with a policy that was intended to bridge the development gap between the South and the North and unite us through development as a people, because nobody must be left behind. As a country, it is totally unacceptable to leave one part or one half of the country undeveloped while the other half continues to develop. He recognized immediately that to be able to bridge this gap, you needed to develop the human capacity of the people. And so he declared that children of 6 years and above who were not in school were to be sent to school compulsorily. And that was years before I was born, but I'm a beneficiary of that policy. Now, Nkrumah is an enigma, because you hear people talk about a person who was autocratic in nature and had dictatorial tendencies. But you also understand and appreciate that Ghana, as we have today, all the key infrastructure that we are riding on today were put in place by Nkrumah within the short period of his stay in power. So that portrays the man as a visionary who understood exactly where he was leading Ghana to. And not only Ghana, the African continent. Nkrumah developed, came out with, championed the African personality. That we as Africans are also a people of a kind who must be respected for who we are. This is a famous statement which is which derives its roots from the Bible, but which was fine-tuned to serve the political purpose of getting us independent from British colonial rule. Seek ye the political kingdom, and all else shall be added unto thee. Because as a people, to take our destiny into our own hands and champion our cause as free citizens of the world was the most important at the time Nkrumah was advocating for independence. Now, so one will ask, and we know that a developing state, a state that is coming out of independence, requires strong visionary leaders. Martin Meredith says that Nkrumah was quite daring when his book about African resources, Africa. His book is Africa. Nkrumah was quite daring because at the time that Ghana obtained independence, how many graduates were in Ghana? How many? How many experts were in Ghana? And so, with limited human resources in terms of skills, he was able to galvanize the people to expand the railways, build us a hydrothermal plant that still serves us up today, build a motorway, a harbor and a motorway that we are trying to expand today. The concept of the thermal motorway is what we are trying to implement today. You know, when the thermal motorway was built, it was to ensure the speedy and expeditious evacuation of goods from the port. In fact, the whole motorway was fenced off, so that when vehicles entered the motorway, they will exit at now, it was a runabout, but now the overhead, so that they could move goods quickly out of the port. Today, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop a dedicated route from the port to the motorway and expand it into a 6-lane road to be able to move goods out of. But 55 years or more ago, Nkrumah already had this vision. The Black Star Line. Nkrumah, Ghana was the first country in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa to have a ship that moved from Africa to Europe, manned by black men. The black man is capable of championing his own destiny. That was a philosophy. But the neoliberals who were largely influenced by British conservative thought and believed that Nkrumah was ruling this country with an iron fist, that he did not allow for political space, and that they had been marginalized. And this accusation of Nkrumah not being the rightful person to lead Ghana did not start with independence. Remember the 1955 or 54 elections? When Nkrumah won, what was their name? UGCC has said that, well, the elections did not reflect the manifest will of the people. And that if the elections were conducted in free, open, transparent manner, the UGCC and their cohorts would be able to show strength in Parliament. The British accepted the argument and tied the independence of Ghana to a fresh election, because that was the only way they could assess whether the people of this country were behind Nkrumah or not. And the 1956 elections settled the question. The UGCC and the NLM performed so disastrously that the British had no option than to report in the British Parliament and issue an order in council determining 6th of March 1957 as the day of independence. So the opposition to Nkrumah did not start after we had gotten independence. It started long before. Actually started when, after having invited Nkrumah upon the formation of the UGCC by Pagrant, who was a timber merchant in the western region. And Nkrumah coming to join the UGCC and being the general secretary. And the fact that Nkrumah was becoming too powerful fissures, conflict developed between Nkrumah and the UGCC, which led Nkrumah to break off from the UGCC and establish the Convention People's Party. The Convention People's Party was derided as Veranda Boys Party because they thought that they were not educated people. And so the confusion and dislike for Nkrumah, and they didn't take it kindly. I mean, how can you bring somebody to be your general secretary and then he decides to break off and form his own party? And so the confusion did not start after we got independence. But the day of shame must be looked at in terms of the way we have cascaded down the slope over the years. That's how it should be looked at. The shame when my brother Kosi Pratt sent me the write-up or the day of shame that had been published in the Insight, I came to the conclusion that the overthrow of Nkrumah on the 24th day of February 1966 and the fact that Ghana has since not been able to go back to the trajectory of development and the meeting of the expectations and aspirations of the people of this country since the overthrow is what should be the shame. Because then you ask, for what reason did they overthrow Nkrumah? At the law faculty of the University of Ghana, we learned that all the accusations that were leveled against Nkrumah were accusations which, if you come to look at it, were not accusations that Nkrumah took, were not based on decisions that Nkrumah took irrespective of the laws of this country. You remember Godfrey Bing's argument and the Prevention Detention Act? This was an act which was promulgated, which was in place. He acted on it. You remember the declaration of the Ghana as a one-party state? It was a consequence upon a vote in the National Assembly to declare Ghana a one-party state, which was acted upon. And so, if the argument is that Nkrumah was a tyrant, a dictator, and it is because the people violated the laws, that was why they were arrested and kept in prison. Now, unless of course we can argue, we want to argue that draconian laws of a state ought not to be enforced by a leader of a country. My consolation in all this is the vindication of Nkrumah so many years after he was overthrown and since his death. At the turn of the century, the BBC elected him. Listeners in the BBC elected Nkrumah as the man of the century. Clearly meaning all over Africa, people have now come to recognize and appreciate the contribution of Nkrumah not only to the development of the country Ghana at the time he was Prime Minister and subsequently President of the country, but also his enormous contribution to the African continent and the black race everywhere. After all, on the 6th of March, 1957, he made a prophetic fundamental statement, which is the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. EU today, the Europeans are saying that they are forming a union. Britain has just left that union. Why? In Africa, we are so fractured as countries that we don't, it is way nigh impossible to show viability as states, individual, acting individually. We have no leverage in negotiations with our European, but how do you hope to negotiate with your former slave masters and still have a fair deal? Bringing all of us together and speaking with one voice by Nkrumah's vision will hold the balance of power, not only between ourselves and Europe, but between the East and the West. And that could offer us an opportunity to champion our own cause and decide where we want to go. It's a shame that this visionary leader was not given enough opportunity to carry through his vision for the development of this country. It's a shame that the hypocrisy and lies that were thrown at this leader, the son of this country, who was intent on making us the pride of Africa, was cast short. It was cast short by people who simply were thinking of themselves first than the country. Every day I sleep, I ask myself, Nkrumah was Prime Minister. Nkrumah was President after we declared Ghana a republic. But where do you have Nkrumah's house? Where is it? Have you ever heard that Nkrumah built a house for himself? Or you know where it is? That is the man we are talking about. You see his children, from Francis to Seko, and have they inherited any houses? Have they? Are they not like you and I? They even went into exile and had to work in Europe. That was the leader, selfless leader, who was not thinking about his family. Have you ever heard, we all know that his mother was Nyaneba, and he hailed from the Nzima area. Have you heard that Nkrumah gave the Nzima area special treatment? Have you ever heard that? And so that is the shame, because today we know that even cemeteries are being redeveloped. Cemeteries are being redeveloped. I don't know whether the people of Nzima were not dying and they had no cemetery. So, for us as a people who are social democrats by ideology and who are Nkrumahs by thought, we have a responsibility to study this man. Read his books. He wrote a lot of books. And understand how this man, the leadership style of this man. 3 traits I got. Anytime I read and study Nkrumah, I get 3 traits of Nkrumah. He was an honest leader. He had integrity. And he was a humble leader. Look at his dressing. It was either the Batakari or the communist style suit.
Those were the fashion at that time.
The Batakari was a fashion. Batakari was a fashion.
No.
I don't want to mention. I don't want to mention names. But there were other political leaders who were always in suits. There were other political leaders who were always in suits.
ALHAJI.
When Nkrumah was going to build the Akosombo Dam, there were political leaders who traveled to England. I haven't seen the picture of how they dressed. I say that we need to. All is not lost. Every day you read about great African leaders, you will find Nkrumah's name there. This testimony is not given by Ghanaians, but the world all over. They invite you, and people write about Nkrumah's leadership style. And so we and the up-and-coming youth must take interest in understanding what Nkrumah stood for, his leadership style, and to see whether we can learn something from that style for the purposes of redeeming our country. Our country is lost. We are drifting on the high seas. We are drifting. We need to come back home and rescue this country. My last is just that, you know that it was 22nd, maybe Master will correct me if I'm wrong. It was 22nd February that Nkrumah won his first election while in 22nd February, while in jail. And it was 24th February that he was overthrown. Keep the days in mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ALHAJI. If you just join us, we are discussing Nkrumah and the Day of Shame. We marked 55 years this week. It was on the 24th. Let me just read a couple of the messages, then I'll come to Mujib. Kofinya, they say, long live Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Nkrumah never dies. Charles Thompson says, our beloved country has retrogressed rapidly since the overthrow of legendary Kwame Nkrumah. Nana Ofoli Iyate, okay. You say, just so great to see you are doing well, Sena. Mr. Pratt and the rest of the positive comrades. Habib Bantus says, good morning, and says, Ghana's Day of Big Shame, 24th of February 1966, the overthrow of the man of the millennium. Nkrumah, your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren say we are sorry for the evil, the evil overthrow, the greedy, selfish-centered men who have set our country back into slavery did to you. Today, their children and grandchildren are ruling us. They are stealing our natural resources in the name of Ejapa. They bombed you when you brought the Detention Act. They called you a dictator. Today, we never bombed them, yet demonstrations are banned. No freedom of speech. Yet they call themselves champions of democracy. God have mercy on us. Thank you. Habib, Ni Opolia, again says, great teamwork, great show, great station. Says, okay. That's another matter. Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed says, we those who believe in procreation, okay, you have other things on your mind. Thank you. Frederick Zele says, it's good seeing Honorable Inu Safuseni on the show. We have missed him a lot. Dennis Andaban says, it's a sad day. Okay, there's something else that has been described. Yao Splash says, today, those children of those who wanted to kill Nkrumah are sinking our dear country. Mumoni Banda says, I greet everyone in the greeting of a word of peace. He's watching us live from Germany. He says, I really like this program. The youth of Ghana must know the true story of Nkrumah. Nkrumah never dies. So thank you very much for some of those messages. I'll read some more as we go along. I would just like to acknowledge briefly that we're also live on Matambo Radio and Diamond FM, also in Tamale. Mujib.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
for the opportunity, and good morning to all Pan-Africa viewers, both Ghana and outside Ghana. It's true, when I saw the topics, then I tried to look at it in three parts and try to put it down, because as a young man growing, was very, very interested in reading the history of this country, know where we are coming, where we are, and where actually we want to get to as a nation. I haven't concluded, but we have also read little about the activities that has taken place. It is true, we all know the contributions of Dr. ALHAJI, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah towards the attainment of political independence in Ghana in 1957. And we know the history how Nkrumah was brought into the country to play a major role in the political activities of this country, especially preparing the grounds for political independence where we're under British colony. All those things, one has to credit them to the first president of the Republic of Ghana. You can't take it away from him. And having become the leader of this country, he has played major role, and he has, in terms of development, like some of the issues ALHAJI intimated, the Temamoto way is still there. After all those years, it's still strong. I stand for correction, but I want to ask Meta if there's any road in this country that is more stronger and durable than the motorway. I'm yet to be told. And in terms of education and in terms of trying to industrialize this country, I think he has, look at it, he has a very clear vision at that time and tried to see where he wanted to take this country to. I am always worried when historically, or when you listen to the historians, where we were at that time alongside South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, etc., etc. And today, as we are sitting now in this very studio, if you raise your head and look at all those countries, they are far, far, far miles away than Ghana today where we are. And it's very, very, very pathetic. Then, when you even ask questions, some people are so frustrated to the extent that they said then it was as well better that we even allowed the British to manage us for another period of time before they leave us, because of what we are going through now. And that could be actually described as a shame on all of us. So now, but it is also true that even reading the scriptures, the Holy Scriptures, it is a fact that no human being is perfect. God created human being, but we are not perfect. It's only God who is perfect. Therefore, whatever people make mistakes, even some prophets who were sent and under the directions of the Almighty God at a point made certain mistakes, even though they were forgiven conditional. So, my worry aspect is sometimes when you want to point out to some of the mistakes or shortfalls of the great leader, Dr. ALHAJI Kwame Nkrumah, I always say, who is not Nkrumahs? We are all Nkrumahs because he played a very key role, but people don't want to hear on that side. I listened to ALHAJI and some of the events that led to why people has to come in. And I am happy ALHAJI is here, he's a lawyer, only trying, aspiring to get to where they are. But it's true, ALHAJI, and we all acknowledge that the people will always resist draconian laws. The citizens of every country will always resist draconian laws, especially when that stifles their fundamental human rights. The people will always rise up against those. It is not only in Ghana, it is elsewhere. We are even seeing it in recent times and elsewhere, like South American countries. You have experienced what has happened. Not quite long ago, we saw what happened in Tunisia, Algeria, the Arab Spring. So these were people who were frustrated, and they felt that what was going on was not best, and their fundamental human rights were trampled upon. So they needed to rise up. And then they did it and succeeded. So, yes, certain laws were made which were not in the interest of the people of Ghana at that time. The atmosphere was not all the best. Free speech was stifling. Human rights was not upheld. Abuses of political opponents here and there. So at a point, some people felt that something has to be done to create a very good atmosphere for the people of Ghana at that time. But that is not to say to justify coup d'etats or military interventions. I am saying this because you have to also look at the individual or the person in charge at that time against the actions or the atmosphere at that time. Then you can now come to conclusion, your own conclusion on that. I think some of those things cause and has to get people, because in the history, we saw what happened to them. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and his colleagues, to the extent that they were arrested in several occasions and were detained. But they never went through what, when Nkrumah got the opportunity, some of the people who disagreed with him were arrested and detained, and what they went through. So that will tell you the difference between even when the whites were controlling us, but they still uphold certain standards when it comes to human rights. But when it comes to our own, things became extremely difficult at that time. And I think, Sena, when you look at the history, you will see it. And if you take the letter J.B. Danko wrote to Kwame Nkrumah when he was detained in his own prison, all these things are examples. So, but that is not true. So, Sena, a lot of things happened at that time. And moving forward, was Ostead House, the date ALHAJI mentioned, 24 February 1966. And Sena, what has happened? I agreed to the caption, Ghana's Day of Shame. ALHAJI, 60-something years today after independence, you still cannot get dual carriage road, madam, from Accra to Kumasi. Just yesterday, accident happened. How many people lost their life? It's a shame on us as a people of Ghana. It's a shame on our leaders. After 60 years down the line, Cape Coast, Takoradi, ALHAJI, Takoradi undoubtedly is our food basket in this country in terms of everything. We still have single dual carriage road. Madam, only God knows 60 years down the line how many Ghanaians have lost their life as a result of that single road. So what are we doing? What are we doing? So I think that events happen. A lot of Ghana belong to all of us. Decisions were taken, but collectively, I think that we have failed ourselves. And that is why we are here we are today. I am here to see any region connecting to the other, that you can drive here without a single dual carriage. In Ghana, there's no. After 60 years down the line, we don't have it. From Accra to Kumasi, from Kumasi to Sunyane, from Sunyane to the northern part of the country is the same. We don't have it. You come to education, we have failed. You come to health sector, COVID has come to expose our health infrastructure in this country. After 60 years, what have we achieved as a people? Corruption is at the high level right from that time up to now. As a people, what are we doing about it? Today, I don't want to get there, but we still have a long way to go. But I think that I've loved the captions, and I felt that no, it has to be discussed devoid of our political leaning and our political coloration, because it is Ghana. When Ghana succeed, we all benefit. When we fail as we are failing, then we are all in trouble. So now today, if I want to travel to VIP bus leaves here at 4 o'clock in the evening to travel, sit in the car for almost 12 to 13 hours. It will get there the next dawn. And I have a small car here I drive. Sometimes when you are tired, you see how it is. A blink of an eye, the eye can cause trouble. Then I'll normally put myself in the driver's situation. But you are driving 12 hours. You are a human being. You don't stop at any point to even have a rest about an hour or two. Anything can happen. So I always have at the back, very risky. Very risky. Leaders, political leaders, don't value the life of the citizens of this country. It is very important. We have to say it. Whether you are the one who it is affecting or is ALHAJI or myself, but you have to agree and accept the reality. Other than that, we can move forward. ALHAJI, 3 days ago, I read and Donald Trump lawyers were directed by the High Court in America to release the tax returns of the former president of the United States of America to aid investigations. And I asked myself, wow, this is why just not how many months is out of office, but the laws are working. So, Sena, a lot of things when we want to delve deep into this topic, I think that we'll use the 3 hours in looking into the discussing only that topic. 60 years down the line, how have we able to position ourselves as a people and make sure our laws function, irrespective of who is involved? That is another critical way. When we don't look at it, we won't progress as a people. Because it is me, no problem. The law can work. Because it is Madame tomorrow, he is stronger, he's above the laws. We have gone through all this and we are still going through them in this country. People see it on daily basis. Right from that time up to now, freedom of speech has been stifled in this country. And it's still happening in this country. Why? So it is actually a day of shame. But I think that to be fair and candid to all manner of people, especially those who sacrifice, put their life for the betterment of this country, for gaining us independent. At a certain point, we need to always credit some of them and also point out to the I will describe them as the minute shortfalls of the great leader. It is equally important because if you agree that there is no perfection, like the famous Ray Akoto case is there. Even today, your lawyers are. Why do you describe those lawyers at that time, the Timoro souls? Like, you see them. So a lot of things happened those days. To the extent that a present name have to be mentioned in the Constitution to be the president of the Republic of Ghana. All these things didn't speak well at that time. And other African scholars have also described him. He was a great leader by all standards, started as a Democrat, but the ending was where they have problems with ALHAJI Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In conclusion, ALHAJI mentioned education. It is true that on the northern part of the country benefit, but largely, looking at the history of the northern Ghana, the educational aspect, the Catholic Church and the churches played significant role at that time before even all these policies came into being. Because I realized that being told by my grandfather how they had to travel distance to even have middle school education because the schools were not there. So those days, upper region, where you have to struggle to get to Tamale or Navrongo, thereabout, before you can have access to middle school education. So it wasn't all rosy at that time, and it wasn't willingly just, people had to talk, and a lot of sacrifices has to be made before even those small, this thing was granted. And there was a reason to that, because, but that, I don't want to go into that. But having said that, I think that but collectively, we haven't failed in all other aspects, but significantly we have failed. If we compare Ghana today where we are to Singapore, Malaysia, and the rest where we were today where we are, you look at Ghana and you become worried and demoralized, almost thinking that we can't make it again. But I think that let's keep fighting. But we all have to be blamed. And it's indeed an actually day of shame. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mujib. I'm getting all the way to the man to the right, but I'll come to Doc before I get to him. But let me just do a few of your message. Nana Kojo is saying, Nkrumah forever. He was selfless, genius, and born to entire Africa. Goswe Bansa says, I expect Uncle Kwesi to educate us on this great man. Nkrumah never dies. Akosua Tebio Papo says, what the predecessors of this government did to Nkrumah is a replica of what we are seeing play right before our eyes. They put themselves first, neglecting the needs of the entire country. God bless Mahama for having the heart and characteristics of Nkrumah, you say. Albert Lincoln Owusu says, most especially, okay, it says greetings to Dr. Nanama Kum Brown Kluche, added another name to it. Okay, the name is getting longer. Look.
Thank you, Sena. I think I'm getting emotional with this, with the way the discussion is going. Yeah, of course, it's indeed a shame on all of us Ghanaians. Let me start by greeting the people of my constituency, Abra Sebuko Amankesi, and also greet my family members. They are right by the set watching. I feel Nkrumah, it's worthy of celebration. He did a lot. I will start with his concept of Pan-Africanism and the African unity, the model that he started with. That actually gave birth to the African Union Commission ALHAJI had mentioned. And let me use this opportunity to actually give a shout out to the high member delegation from the African Union Commission in Ghana. They came like 3 days ago to support the workshop on space science. It's the 4th African Space Generation Workshop this year, organized by young scientists in space science, Kingsley, Charles, and others all over the continent. So African Union has been there, born from Nkrumah. But the popular saying that of Nkrumah, that Ghana's independence is meaningless unless the other African countries are liberated. I think we all learned that in school. And Nkrumah didn't just say that, he worked at it. He actually developed human resource in the other countries. We can remember Robert Mugabe was resolute. I remember also Hassan Banda of Malawi. I remember also Joshua Nkomo, also of Zimbabwe. Actually, Hassan Banda, Kamuzu Banda, yes, he even became a board member of Infantiman Girls Secondary School. That's my alma mater. Of course, we can't finish this discussion without mentioning the fathers of Pan-Africanism. I think George Padmore played a very big role in this. We have Atta Louise, who eventually became the economic advisor of Nkrumah. And I think W.E. Du Bois also, yes, was also a part of this. So I think they are also to be celebrated as well. Nkrumah's Pan-Africanism even attracted or went beyond the African continent, attracting African Americans. That got Maya Angelou coming to teach at the University of Ghana. We also learned that Martin Luther King also came to Ghana. Nkrumah did a lot for the continent, but particularly in Ghana, he did so many things. We can't finish the discussion on it. We talk about infrastructure. ALHAJI has mentioned the motorway. My friend has also mentioned about the motorway. So many roads that connected the cities. Nkrumah built the Tama port, the Akosombo port dam, which we are enjoying the electricity, our major source of electricity from today. Many schools, many secondary schools. In fact, the basic schools are uncountable. And my own school, Infantiman Girls, was one of those Nkrumah had built. Ghana National I mean, so many secondary schools, many training colleges, and now today, College of Education. We had also polytechnics, also built by Nkrumah. We have the University of Cape Coast, and Nkrumah played a very significant role in the establishment of today's Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. In fact, it was under Nkrumah's tenure that the University of Ghana became the full-fledged university from University College. There are a lot that he did in our community. In fact, he touched on all aspects of development. The factories he built. Indeed, that's where one will get very much emotional. We were producing towels. I remember Bonsa towels. We had Valco. We had tomato factory at Palugu. We had in Sawom Canary. We had so many factories we were producing for ourselves. Why did he not continue after his generation or after his tenure? So it is indeed a day of shame. His personality, I feel there are a lot we the young ones can learn from. His unification concept. He was relentless, resolute, and I feel that is a thing we the young ones should also learn from Nkrumah. And he didn't just do that, he also wrote on some of his ideologies, some of his development, I mean, educating or living the blueprint of the things that he thinks of or he does for the younger generations to come to learn. You have a very big platform, and I'm sure it's also educative for others to learn. So that's why I'm picking it from that angle. Even his administration, we can learn relatively. I'm sure my friend will not agree with me, but it was relatively, the administration was relatively not corrupt. I mean, we can compare his administration with the other administrations until today. Of course, there were some allegations his administrations was implicated in. I remember the popular J.A. Brimer bribery allegation, also the Savundra affairs. If it was today, we would call it a scandal. And of course, his critics were also not happy with his Prevention Detection Act and his Alien Deportation Act that actually saw the deportation of Ottoman Ladi. And I think Amkwesi can correct me if I'm wrong, Balogun and others out of the country. That was clearly against his concept of Pan-Africanism. But those were aliens working against his administration. And so, of course, his critics got that platform to use. Now, after whatever they did, his critics now came to power and did worse than Nkrumah did. We witnessed that all from history. They introduced the protective custody decree under the National Liberation Council of Afrifa and Ankara. And that saw the caging of the Boy Moses, who was caged and paraded through the street of Accra like a monkey, you know. The main critics are the same UP tradition that also introduced the Alien Compliance Order of Buzia. And I think at that time, the father of Akufo-Addo, Edward Akufo-Addo, was the prime minister. Oh no, the ceremonial president, yeah? Was the ceremonial president at the time. So it's kind of the same UP tradition that has metamorphosed to NPP. And so the criticisms of Nkrumah, we can compare that to today. And of course, as a member of the NDC, I disagree a lot with my friend here. The criticisms John Mahama received, at a point he said Ghanaians will resist certain laws, but also it's some people who will project or sell that kind of idea to the ordinary Ghanaian. We witnessed this under John Mahama's administration. What didn't Mahama do? Building of roads, schools, different infrastructure development we witnessed in Ghana. But the same group of people who have grown into NPP criticized John Mahama's administration badly, critically, so much that Ghanaians felt like we don't want that. It is not road that we are going to eat. And a whole lot happened in the country. Today, they are in power. What are we seeing? Worse. He had also mentioned that freedom of speech, we don't have freedom of speech since time immemorial. But we clearly witnessed the administration of Mahama. We had freedom where everyone was free to speak. But today, speak and see if you will not be invited either to the Supreme Court or you go under investigation with the BNI or CID, wherever.
Doctor, you are speaking. Nobody will invite.
Yeah, so we didn't witness that these extreme cases under Mahama's administration. But there's one thing I want to also bring to bear. One of the key things Nkrumah did is the establishment of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. Nkrumah is visionary, should I say was visionary. The establishment of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, I'm sure he had known that we can develop through our nuclear program. Many countries, many developed countries, or should I say every developed country has used nuclear or with nuclear programs. So for Ghana to have the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission with a reactor, it means we are already having that step to move towards nuclear program. But of course, the shame now is, where have we done since then? We have a lot of nuclear scientists trained, so we have the base to take up from. But as a country, we are not progressing at all on that front. Government come, government go. It has been kind of stagnant. So we are not projecting the vision of Nkrumah. We are not adding on to the effort of Nkrumah. That is the shame. The importance of nuclear program or using nuclear energy. You see, even for developed countries, nuclear energy is not the 100% energy provision for them. It's not even the major energy, but it's the base energy, because that can stay for a long time producing energy for people. If you want to develop, if you want to actually industrialize, that is the way we should go. I use this platform to also advocate that Ghana should think critically, seriously, in taking steps in developing the nuclear program if you want to develop, further. Every technology comes with spin-offs. So even before we get to the nuclear power itself, there are a lot of advantages we can get through the program, like space science. The spin-offs can even help the country to develop. One thing that comes with nuclear program is the safety culture, which can translate into so many areas. Apart from the nuclear energy, can translate into our health sector, can translate into so many areas. So why are we not doing the right thing? So I feel it's about time we step up. We can't sit to complain. We have to be in action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc, and the perspective you provided. Thank you. Before I go to Mr. Pratt, I just want to go through a few of the messages that that you have sent. Daliwi G. Joseph says, after Nkrumah, Mahama is next best president ever in our history. Sends greetings to Honorable Inus Afuseni and Uncle Pratt. Kwame Nkoja is watching us from Saboba. Very good morning to you. Charles Amponi says, why we don't, okay, we don't, okay, I think it has to do with the presidential election. Mr. Pratt, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, I mean, this very week, a number of things have happened which clearly show that the opponents to Nkrumah have no moral authority whatsoever to open their mouth and to offer any criticism about Nkrumah's human rights record. They have no moral authority whatsoever. And I'm talking about things that have happened this week, not last week, not last year, this week. Sometime this week, we got a letter from the Criminal Investigations Department asking us to release Sena, who is today hosting this program, to assist in investigations into some statements that were allegedly made by ALHAJI Inus Afuseni, who is also on this program. Now, I am wondering why this. First and foremost, the Criminal Investigations Department came to us, they went to court, they got a court order, and were made to release copies of the statements made by ALHAJI Inus Afuseni, which is supposed to be the basis of the investigation. Sena Nombo made no such statement. He didn't endorse that statement. The police have the actual statement made by ALHAJI Inus Afuseni. And yet Sena Nombo has been invited by the CID to assist in investigations. How is he going to assist in investigations? What material evidence does he have that the police does not have already? Clearly, as far as I'm concerned, this is deliberate harassment of the host of ALHAJI and ALHAJI. Deliberate harassment of a journalist and so on. And people who behave like this turn around and accuse Nkrumah of violating the rights of citizens and so on. Let's come to the issue of ALHAJI Inus Afuseni. He's sitting here right now. ALHAJI Inus Afuseni has been invited to the Criminal Investigations Department. He probably faces a charge of making statements that undermine public peace and so on, if you look at all the correspondence we have had on the issue. And yet, leading members of this government have mounted platforms, have sat on radio stations, have sat on television stations, and called for the killing of citizens of this country, and nothing has happened. Leading members of this government have called for arson, the burning of houses of former presidents and so on. Nothing has happened. Double standards indeed. And these are the people who have the effrontery. These are the people who have the effrontery to open their mouths and to attack Nkrumah's human rights record. I can't believe it. This morning, on this very program, my very good friend and brother, he's sitting here. He made a statement which is very instructive. He says the human rights record of the British administration was better than that of Nkrumah. That is their standard. What? The human rights record of a colonial power? They don't even understand our history. Britain, which imposed itself on us through force Under colonialism, the people of Ghana had no right to elect their own leaders. The head of government was appointed by the Queen of England. We had no say in it. At a certain time, even municipal and district chief executives were appointed from England. They were white people. We had no say in it. Look at the killing of Sergeant Ajete and so on, how they were killed, murdered in cold blood, only because they were protesting on the streets of Accra and so on. Look at the record of the British colonial administration, and you dare compare that to the record of Nkrumah. My goodness, I can't believe this. But this is the orientation. Now, my brother, those who were arrested, detained, and tried under the Nkrumah government were not just opponents of Nkrumah. They were not just opponents of Nkrumah. It is not true. And they were not arrested and detained because they were opponents of Nkrumah. They were criminals. Criminals perpetrating crime against the people of Ghana. They were hoodlums. They were hoodlums. They were persons who were sabotaging the development of Ghana and the interest of the people of Ghana. And that is why the laws of Ghana dealt with them in the manner in which it dealt with them. Why? One of those people was Jake Obeche Bilamte. Hey, sorry. It was Obeche Bilamte, not Jake. Jake was the son. It was Obeche Bilamte. Why? When they criticized Nkrumah for jailing Obeche Bilamte, they forget that the 3 judges who jailed Obeche Bilamte all came from the UP tradition. 3 judges. 3 judges heard the case of Obeche Bilamte and came to the conclusion that he was a terrorist deserving to be sentenced to prison. Those 3 judges were Van Leer, Sir Akukosa, and Akufo-Addo. The 3 judges who jailed Obeche Bilamte for being a terrorist, none of them came from the Convention People's Party. None of them was an ally of Nkrumah. They were all Dankwa Buzia elements. They jailed Obeche Bilamte. And today, they have the effrontery to turn around and blame Nkrumah, but they jailed Obeche Bilamte. They should tell me who convicted Obeche Bilamte of terrorism. And the 3 judges came to the conclusion that Obeche Bilamte was a terrorist. And why was Obeche Bilamte a terrorist? Obeche Bilamte was a terrorist because he was procuring dynamites and organizing people to explode these dynamites in mass gatherings, leading to the killing of innocent women and children. Today, as we sit here, in Accra, in Adenta, lives a woman called Elizabeth Asantwa. Elizabeth Asantwa suffered from one of those explosions at the Accra Sports Stadium. She's still alive. She continues to suffer the pain and misery imposed on her by these elements, these hoodlums, who like to call themselves opponents of Nkrumah. They were not opponents of Nkrumah. They were criminals, and they had to be dealt with according to the laws of Ghana. In any case, if you listen to them, they come and tell you that, look, there was Preventive Detention Act and therefore Nkrumah was a dictator and so on. The same people will tell you that the United States of America is a democracy. They will tell you that Germany is a democracy. They will tell you that Britain is a democracy. Double speaking. They speak from both sides of their mouth. As we speak today in this studio, the United States of America has a law which is akin to the Preventive Detention Act. The people who are detained on Guantanamo Bay, who tried them? Who put them on trial? Who charged them? The United States of America is using the same Preventive Detention Act in order to fight what it calls terrorism in much the same way that Nkrumah did in the 60s and so on. Today, as we speak here, even the United States, they don't arrest you and detain you. Sometimes, when they accuse you of terrorism, you are bombed right inside your home together with all your family members. They exterminate you and so on. And yet, these double-speaking, double-tongued elements consider the United States of America as a democracy. In Britain, what happens in Britain today? Are the laws in Britain different from the laws in Ghana? Stop this double standards. In any case, let's look at their own records. After overthrowing the Nkrumah government, these same people passed the protective custody law. What was the difference between the protective custody law and the Preventive Detention Act? Look at that, the same. And under the protective custody law, innocent women, pregnant women and so on, were arrested and detained without charge or without trial. One of the people who was arrested without charge or without trial is still alive today. One of the first Ghanaian women to go to parliament, Madam Lucy Enin, was arrested and detained by these hoodlums, by these charlatans, under the so-called protective custody law. Madam Boko, the first tractor driver in Ghana, was arrested and detained. Many innocent citizens were arrested and detained simply because they were associated with the Convention People's Party. The people who were detained under Nkrumah were not arrested and detained because they were associated with the United Party. They were arrested and detained because there was credible evidence that they were bomb throwers, as the popular saying went at that time. Bomb throwers and saboteurs and so on. Why? There were so many people who were in the United Party, who were in the opposition parties, opposition to Nkrumah and so on. None of them was detained. Why come that they were selected for detention? In any case, even in Nkrumah's own government, there were people who served as ministers in Nkrumah's government who had nothing to do with the Convention People's Party. And that's a fact. Check the records. ALHAJI Bashir Konswanzi, who became the Attorney General, was not a member of the Convention People's Party. Indeed, one of the first appointments Nkrumah made on coming to power was the appointment of J.B. Dankwa to go to the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Go and check. No, it was not the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. The Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Nkrumah appointed J.B. Dankwa to that position. How can you create the impression that Nkrumah was a megalomaniac, chasing his opponents and crashing their heads and so on? It was not true. Indeed, the historical records also show that one of the closest friends of Nkrumah was called Mabel Dove, who was the wife of J.B. Dankwa. And even as the husband was in detention, she maintained very close relationship with Nkrumah and so on. You see, people read our history upside down or don't read it at all, and they want to come to conclusions and make statements which cannot be supported by the facts and so on. In Nkrumah's time, one of the U.S. ambassadors to Ghana was called Mahoney. On Mahoney's death, his son, Jack Mahoney, collected all his records and so on, and has written a book. The title of the book is called JFK, or Deal in Africa. From page 185 of that book, Jack Mahoney illustrates the treachery of those who allegedly suffered under Nkrumah. How they went to the U.S. Embassy, took monies to work against Nkrumah, how they work against the African interest, how they work against Ghana's interest, how they became collaborators of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. Please save us this rubbish. Save us this rubbish and read your history. Because if you read your history, you will not be talking like this and so on. Look, put Jack Mahoney's book aside. The Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America has declassified its own documents on how the coup was organized. Those declassified documents have been published in a book titled The Great Deception, How the CIA Overthrew the Nkrumah Government. Go and read it. The CIA admits that it organized the 1966 coup. And it organized the 1966 coup not because Nkrumah was a dictator, but because Nkrumah was working for the liberation of Ghana and Africa from the clutches of neo-colonialism. That is why Nkrumah was overthrown. You see, these half-baked accounts of history does us no good. On September 21st, and the date is important, 1961, the British High Commissioner in Ghana, A.W. Snelling, sent a cable to his home office urging his home government to overthrow Nkrumah. That cable is available. In that cable, A.W. Snelling stated that they had to get rid of Nkrumah because he was making the African too politically conscious. That was why they overthrew Nkrumah. Look, the whole conspiracy leading to the 1966 coup, all the meetings, were held in a bungalow at the 37 Military Hospital. The bungalow of Major Kwashe. That is where the meetings were held. And I know what I'm talking about. You understand? Those meetings were held in the bungalow of Major Kwashe at the 37 Military Hospital. Those I've had the privilege of talking to some of those people who attended those meetings in the 37 Military Hospital leading to the overthrow of the Nkrumah government. One of those people was A.K. Deku. A.K. Deku. I interviewed A.K. Deku before he died. A.K. Deku, in his own words, said that Nkrumah is the best leader that Ghana has ever had. A.K. Deku in his own words. And then I asked him, why did you then join the conspiracy to overthrow him? And then he said, when he was recruited, it became clear to him that the forces behind the coup had gone so far, they were so powerful that he could not retreat. And that if he had retreated, he would have died. So it is clear that even some of the people who participated in the coup were tricked, they were blackmailed, and so on, to participate in the coup d'etat. Learn your history before you talk on your history. If you don't know your history, shut up. Shut up. Why? Anytime you talk about the coup, and you talk about, Nkrumah and so on, that they come and tell you that, oh, Nkrumah himself was invited to join the struggle. Stop that rubbish. Because that is absolute rubbish. Because the historical record indicates that Nkrumah was carrying on the agitation for national independence, not just for the Gold Coast, but the whole of West Africa, all the way from his student days in the United States of America. Indeed, in 1945, the 5th Pan-African Congress was held in Manchester, in the United Kingdom. Nkrumah was the secretary to the 5th Pan-African Congress. And indeed, Nkrumah was the one who mobilized African students and activists to participate in the 5th Pan-African Congress, whose final resolution told Africans that we have nothing to lose but our chains, and that Africans needed to unite to struggle against colonialism, and that after the defeat of colonialism, we needed to build a United States of Africa under the banner of socialism. It was Nkrumah's achievements in these struggles throughout the world which came to the attention of these so-called nationalists. And they invited Nkrumah to come and give them some of their shine, to come and lead them in the struggle for liberation. But they betrayed Nkrumah. Even before independence had been achieved, Nkrumah had been betrayed several times over. One, when Nkrumah and others, J.B. Dankwa, the so-called Big Six, were arrested in connection with the protests and so on, what did they do? All the other five denied any involvement in those protests. And they said that it was only Nkrumah who was agitating and so on. The historical record is there. They betrayed him. When Nkrumah was recruited to come and become the general secretary of the UGCC, they promised him a car and a salary. They never gave him the car. They never gave him the salary. By the time Nkrumah came to the Gold Coast, the so-called UGCC had only 3 offices. One in Accra, one in Sopon, and one in Sekondi Takoradi. In a period of 1 year, 12 months, the UGCC had been transformed directly because of Nkrumah's work to the first mass-based political party in Africa, with branches in almost every town and village in this country. Nkrumah has established the convention, the United Gold Coast Convention, all the way up to the north, to the east, to the west, and had covered every place. It had become a mass movement. That mass movement was not the creation of J.B. Dankwa. That mass movement was not the creation of Obeche Bilamte. That mass movement was the creation of none other than Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The historical record is clear. For us, February 24th, 1966 is Ghana's day of shame for good reason. Because that was the day on which Ghanaians betrayed the African Revolution. That was the day on which Ghanaians sabotaged the national liberation movement throughout Africa. That was the day on which some Ghanaian elite, some Ghanaian petty bourgeoisie and bourgeoisie teamed up with the forces of neo-colonialism and classical colonialism to subvert African independence. And I don't say this lightly. After the overthrow of Nkrumah, all the camps which had been established in Ghana to train liberation fighters to go to Mozambique, to go to Angola, to go to South Africa, to go to Rhodesia and other places to liberate them from colonialism were closed down. And indeed, the African nationalists, the liberation fighters, were arrested and handed over to the enemies of Africa to be dealt with, to sabotage the African Revolution. That is why 24th February 1966 is Ghana's day of shame. 24th February 1966 is also Ghana's day of shame because it led to the situation in which Ghana, the mecca of African liberation, broke ranks with other Africans and third world nations and virtually declared that it was willing to do business with apartheid South Africa. That's a shame. Ghana decided to support the worst racist regime in the world at the time, apartheid South Africa. Ghana advocated that sanctions against South Africa should be removed and that African countries should do business with South Africa. What a shame. What a shame. That is why 24th February 1966 is our day of shame. It's our day of shame because we sabotaged the African Revolution. It's our day of shame because it was on that day that the gains that had been made in the unification of Africa, in the establishment of the United States of Africa, were subverted, openly subverted. By February 24th, 1966, by February 24th, 1966, the nucleus of the United States of Africa had already been established. We had established the Ghana-Guinea-Mali Union, which was the nucleus of the United States of Africa. It was sabotaged it was truncated as a result of the February 24, 1966. Indeed, right now, historians have found a document signed by Patrice Lumumba of the Congo, joining that nucleus of the United States of Africa. So by 1966, 4 African countries had committed themselves to joining a union of African states. That was sabotaged also by the 1966 coup. 1966, February 24, 1966, is Ghana's day of shame because it subverted Ghana's effort to build a truly independent, self-reliant national economy. By 1966, what didn't we have? Under the import substitution program, Ghana had plenty factories. The garment industry in Ghana was well established, far better established than we have in Turkey today, far better established than we have in the Middle East and so on. The garment industry in Ghana was firmly established. Look, I started work at the Ghanaian Times as a reporter in 1974. And those who are a little older will remember that whole West Industrial area was full of garment factories. Today, they have all been turned into churches. What they produce is prayer and holy oil. That was the hope of Ghana's textile industry. By February 24, 1966, we're producing our own electronic equipment, radio sets, wireless, television sets, and so on. We're producing our own refrigerators. We're producing our own deep freezers. Agriculture had been set on a pace at which we were moving towards self-sufficiency in food production. By February 24, 1966, when the coup occurred, Ghana was the shining light, not just of Africa, but of the whole world. We had made such huge strides in our development that we were even the envy of the colonial power. The motorway, which all the panelists have referred to, was built ahead of Britain. Ghana had its first motorway before the United Kingdom. Ghana had its first motorway before South Korea, before Malaysia, and so on. And when you hear them, and then they tell you that look at Malaysia, look at South Korea, and so on, they should go and listen to the leaders of Malaysia at the time of Nkrumah. They themselves have told us in plain, understandable language that everything they learnt, everything they did, was done under the tutelage of Asajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. They tell us that they learnt at the feet of Asajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. It was Asajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah who showed them the way. Today, look at where we are. What did the 1966 coup do for Ghana? Today, Ghana is the third largest importer of tomato paste from Germany. That is where we are. Third largest importer of tomato paste from Germany. Today, where are we? You see the Volta River flows all the way from Burkina Faso all the way into the Atlantic Ocean. Look at the rivers we have. The Tano, the Pra, and so on, crisscrossing the country. We are bordered on the south by the Atlantic Ocean, and yet Ghana is a net importer of fish. That is what the 1966 coup has done to us. What the 1966 coup has done to us is that today we have become completely dependent on aid. This week, we were told that Ghana has had 600,000 doses of the corona vaccine. And I went to try and read a lot more. And everything I read showed that the 600,000 vaccine we got was sent to the poorest countries in the world, including Afghanistan. that is the category we belong to. The donors are saying that those are donations they are making to the poorest countries in the world, including Afghanistan and Somalia, and that is where Ghana belongs. Are we not ashamed? In fact, yesterday, the International News Network announced that La Côte d'Ivoire has also received its fair share of 600,000 doses, the same. And we are here beating our chest and organizing grandiose ceremonies to receive vaccines that we did not contribute in producing and we did not pay for. Vaccines that we got from making lala. And we are happy. And we are clapping for ourselves. People are having pity on us for being amongst the poorest nations in the world. And it's on our front page, it's called for celebration. That is what the 1966 coup did to us. The 1966 coup reimposed the culture and mentality of slaves. That is why it is the day of shame. The 1966 coup reimposed this backward culture of accepting slavery with a smile. And that is what we are doing. I am ashamed of ourselves. Look at the state of our infrastructure. Look at the state of our infrastructure. And I'm happy that Mujib Rahman himself has spoken about the state of our infrastructure. How many years? 55 years after the overthrow of Nkrumah. Ghana was leading the third world in infrastructural development by 1966. Today, look at where we are. Try and drive from here through Abofu to Achimota and see the quality of the road. I am ashamed. And February 24, 1966 will continue to be Ghana's day of shame. The day of betrayal. The day of retrogression. The day of pettiness. The day that symbolizes everything that has gone wrong in our history. The day that sympathizes, the day that symbolizes sympathy and love for colonialism. The day on which hoodlums, criminal gangs teamed up with the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America to overthrow the legitimate government of the people of Ghana. Look, they talk about one-party state. They always talk about one-party state. And I laugh. You know why? The United States of America, every election will either be won by the Democrats or the Republicans. I lie. Show me the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Show me the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They are two sides of the same coin. The fact that they have two parties which virtually have the same ideology, the same practice and everything, doesn't make them a multi-party democracy. And yet, our friends are in love with the United States of America. In the United States of America, if you become a communist, or if you declare yourself as a communist or a socialist, you are required by law to go and register with the State Department as a foreign agent. That means that practically you lose your citizenship if you become a communist. If you do not subscribe to the prevailing establishment ideology, you lose your citizenship. And yet that is democracy for them. They love it. You understand? They showed that to us as the example we should emulate. What example are we supposed to emulate? In any case, there's a fundamental question which everybody must answer, including me, including all of us here, and so on. How come that all the countries, almost 90% of countries which gained their independence, from the colonial empires and so on, in the 1950s and 1960s, how come that all of them became one-party states? How come? The one-party state phenomena was not about Ghana, and it was not about Nkrumah. It was a worldwide phenomena, and something must explain it. Are you going to blame Nkrumah for the one-party state phenomenon who spread across the world? That is not scientific. We are not doing scientific analysis. How come that Ghana, like all the other countries who gained independence from British colonialism, from German colonialism and so on, all of them became one-party states? In any case, these people who are complaining about Nkrumah's one-party states and so on were allies of Hifikepunye in La Côte d'Ivoire. And Hifikepunye in La Côte d'Ivoire was operating a one-party system. Indeed, Hifikepunye was not just operating a one-party system, he was a darling boy of the colonial enterprise. Hifikepunye, while still president of La Côte d'Ivoire, was a member of the French Parliament. He was not just a member of the French Parliament, he was also a citizen of France and president of La Côte d'Ivoire. Perhaps that is why they loved him. That is why they collaborated with him. What they hated about Nkrumah was his independent mind. What they hated about Nkrumah was that Nkrumah developed programs and projects to break Ghana from the colonial metropolis. He came up with the import substitution program, which led to the establishment of 400 factories in a space of 9 years. And you see, when we are evaluating the Nkrumah government, sometimes we should open our eyes and look a little deeper. Sena, Nkrumah was in power for only 9 years. 9 years. And look at what he did to Ghana and its economy. Nkrumah was in power only 1 more year than President Kufuor. President Kufuor was in power for 8 years. Nkrumah was in power for 9 years. And look at the difference. Look at the difference. Today, there's nothing we have done or we continue to do which is not from the 7-year development plan that Nkrumah instituted. When we built the Bui Dam, we are celebrating the Bui Dam. By February 24, 1966, engineers were already on the ground. Construction of the Bui Dam has started, and we stopped it. 55 years later, we are celebrating the Bui Dam, which is 55 years late. Why? Today, we are talking about gold refinery in Ghana. By February 24, 1966, the gold refinery at Takwa was almost 90% complete. It was abandoned in the forest to rot. Today, we are talking about the extension of railways. Go and read the Nkrumah 7-year development plan. We are 55 years late. 55 years late. Today, we have come up with some program called Planting for Food and for Jobs. As if you can plant for something else. You plant always for food and jobs. And we are not even doing it well. Go and look at Nkrumah's development plan for agriculture. The development of extension services. The extension of extension services to all farmers and so on. Go and look. We are boasting about free SHS. Go and look at Nkrumah's educational policy. We are 55 years late. And we are 55 years late because criminals and hoodlums conspired with the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America to subvert the advance of Ghana and Africa under the leadership of ALHAJI Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. 24th February 1966 is Ghana's day of shame because it brought everything down and sent us back to the medieval age. 24th February 1966 is Ghana's day of shame because the anti-national, anti-people opposition to Nkrumah sought foreign assistance to subvert Ghana's movement forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Pratt. I'll take a short break, but before I do that, just 2 things. The first one is a message from Ola Mangote in Odumasi Dodo. It's a long time, Ola. Good morning to you. Says, Sena, you and your panelists make me proud of the value and use of ALHAJI and ALHAJI in the development of national consciousness. I salute Senior Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. and Pan-African TV for providing the enabling environment for the program to thrive. I wish all of you success in your efforts. And whilst you're at it, perhaps one of those days you can make time to pass through. And say a big thank you to Jarring's Breakfast and Snacks Bar. Jarring's Breakfast and Snacks Bar. They have provided us some snacks this morning. A big thank you to them. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll deal with the issues of vetting, especially that we are always on course. We are on course, actually, to making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. We'll be right back.
Hello, what are you doing? Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day. You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Late Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. And personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, listen, you really cannot miss The Couch with me, Amma Pratt. Still, the only TV show with a hat.
Market Stories is all about our market. Issues such as sanitation, market structures, storage facility, pricing, bargaining, and everything else that goes on in the market. It's going to be very educative, entertaining, and interactive. We would visit our various markets with both sellers and buyers to know everything concerning our market. Join me. My name is Mortia Anandinate. I'm your market lady.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Welcome back from that break. If you're just joining us, then you miss a whole discussion on Ghana's Day of Shame, the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, 55 years on. It's the mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI. Once again, a big thank you to Ahunto 92.3 FM. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are live on Facebook, on Pan-African Television, YouTube, among several other affiliates across the country. Komla Genya is saying if Nkrumah was not confronted with the kind of visionless and vindictive opposition who eventually overthrew him, Ghana would have developed like Malaysia, Singapore, and South Korea. Painfully, we'll still have the descendant of those evil men around doing everything to prevent the country from developing and rather interested in how much they can grab for themselves. He said, can Mujib say with all honesty that he is not aware of political intimidation under his government? I'm not sure Mujib qualifies for his. Ayu Farouk in Tamale North. Good morning, Sena. Did government set up a vaccine injury compensation program in case there are injuries in taking the vaccine? Idi Gideon Muntari sends quite a long way. So I consider Dr. Nkrumah as an institution, a spectacular legend ever. You know what saddens my heart? The fact that the youngsters from the late 90s and the early 2000s who are not willing to learn more history about Gold Coast and the struggle for independence and its success by the legend Nkrumah, thereby they only consider NDC and NPP as rhetoric. If the youth should know the correct history of Ghana, they would have always made good and prudent decisions when it comes to politics and elections and the kind of leaders Ghana should have, and not rulers with us now. Allah bless our motherland, Ghana. Thank you. Kwesi in the UK says, Sena, the truth must be told. NLM, UP, and MPP groups are our main challenge in Ghana's development. Please advise those UP groups to get a book called Black Star, written by Basil Davison, and they will understand the role UP group played in the overthrow of Nkrumah. Nkrumah's crime was African unity. Ask the MPP guy in your studio the role Busi and J.B. Dankwa played with Nkrumah's overthrow. What role did Akufo-Addo's father play in Nkrumah's overthrow? And day of shame indeed. Those on our currency, what role did they play in Ghana's independence? Some more. Kofi Adoli says the UPMPP political philosophy has no genuine motives. Criminal depravity is their driving motive, even to this day. Nkrumah had no personal motive for the detention of J.B. Dankwa and those other criminals who the law caught up with. To think that these same people have another chance to destroy Ghana further is most bewildering. The worst crime they are committing even now is the deliberate revision of the history, supplanting the truth with total lies. Ghanaians need to rise against the brazen depravity or will live to regret or get nothing. Let me end with Davi Sena, who says, grateful to Uncle Kwesi Pratt for this great contribution on the historical antecedents of the MPP people. No wonder. Nothing has changed about them. Hope the youth of today will learn from these exposures and not fall into the trap the MPP has set for them and for Ghanaians generally in their sweet-talking promises and attitudes. I said I was going to end with that. Let me just read Dr. David Percy, quite an extensive one. It says, from their first defeat by the CPP in 1951, the opposition to Nkrumah and Dankwa and Busia vowed to make the Gold Coast and then Ghana ungovernable, so long as Nkrumah kept to his path of power for the common man. By 1954, the hostile elements, having coalesced around the National Liberation Movement, launched a campaign of terrorism for the overthrow of Nkrumah and the CPP. With the assistance of the CIA of the US, these agents of national retrogression succeeded on 24 February 1966. Their opposition was to Nkrumah's selfless visionary leadership for national and Pan-African liberation and independence, which was a direct threat to the interests of US and Western imperialism. Ghana's independence was a dangerous example to all enslaved people that had to be aborted at all costs. Today, their imperialist principles are very happy to have us where we are, back under their control on our news, our self-belief, self-esteem, our self-confidence totally lost. Today, our beloved Ghana is a neo-colony. Our economy, they are as agents as always, are happy with the cramps. Let's move on to the issue of the vetting. And I start with Honorable Yunus Afuseni. Yes. Actually, that is actually something that came out from a vetting, whether Accra is on course to becoming Africa's cleanest city.
Well, let me say that from the one, Sena, you recall that when Nana Donka Akufo-Addo released his list of first nominees for the ministerial positions, I looked at the list and I felt that the names that he had presented or nominated were very uninspiring, because many of them had not achieved well in office. Many. And it was a continuation of failure of sorts. And that has been demonstrated in what has appeared in the vetting. Clearly. I mean, if you listen to the question, I mean, I take, for instance, the health minister. I mean, I was scandalized when the health minister said he did not know how the Frontier Health Services contract was awarded. But he boasted that he had set up an interministerial national task force on COVID, which was escalated to a national task force under the presidency. You recall? And somehow posited that probably it was the national task force that awarded the contract. When he was reminded that the national task force is not a procurement entity, he had no answer. A full minister. And in his previous life in Parliament, he was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Can you imagine? And when he was asked about Salga Hospital, he said he had not visited there, but if he's given the nod, he will now visit. When he was running the hospital has been on the books. So. That is the dereliction. That's the dereliction of duty. You see, we're talking about. I told you I was uninspired because there were many errors by these ministers in the first term, and he's presenting the same people to us. And that's the thing, and just to demonstrate that they were not working.
So, ALHAJI, the measurement you must visit all hospitals in this country.
Let's make
as
this
a
one.
health minister.
Not if you are saying that Nana Akufo-Addo, look at what he said about even the hospitals and that Nana Akufo-Addo promised. It was said it was a statement of intent. Now, but and there were many. I mean, some people could not even define what is fish farming. Okay, and then others were just beating about the bush. I mean, just so that's why the minority is saying that, look, you can come to Parliament and take us for granted and appear to be running away from answers that we need to have to be able to assess you. You get it? Because the whole vetting process is oversight responsibility of Parliament over the power of the President to nominate ministers. And that power comes from Article 58, which vests executive authority in the President. And so he can act it, he can nominate. I mean, where a constitution makes two institutions responsible for the process of nominating and appointing ministers, the President cannot act without that institution. So it's an institutional limitation on the power of the President to nominate. And those ministers must demonstrate capacity, capability, intelligence, competence, prudence, trust in the utilization of public resources. The whole exercise underlying the vetting is because the executive is responsible for policy and programs. Okay? And that's why they bring budgets. So that policy and projects must be funded, policy and programs must be funded by the taxpayers' money. Who are the keepers of the purse? Parliament. So Parliament needs to be satisfied that the people who are going to implement the policies and programs to the President with the money provided by Parliament will be diligent, accountable, and in the utilization of the scarce resources of this country. So, but clearly, I don't know whether we can ask the President the criteria he used in selecting the ministers this time. Because the first time, you recall, there's a great departure. The first time, the President told us reasons why he nominated those ministers. This time, he's not saying anything. He has not said anything. And he's nominating them for different offices. He's not saying anything. So, I don't know whether we are entitled to ask. But the topic, and there are many topics that we can deal with coming from the fallouts from the vetting. For instance, the nomination of a minister for private enterprises without the creation of the office of minister for private enterprises.
Public, yeah.
Public enterprises. Yes. So, and the delineation of the functions of that office. You saw the questions Asla and the other ministers were asking whether that would not be an egregious invasion into territory that is not, should not come under public enterprises. So, I mean, there are those questions. Now, many, I can't even, but the sanitation minister, when she appeared, she seems to have moved again, and this time she did it carefully in order not to set timelines. Because Nana Akufo-Addo had told this country, and we know the dangers of lack of sanitation, proper sanitation. We know that the World Health Organization report in 2017 said that diarrhea is the 5th major killer of children under 5 in Ghana. Do we know that? And everybody knows that diarrhea is a disease of death in sanitation. Okay, lack of sanitation. Everybody knows that. Cholera. Every year we have had to grapple with cholera. And then, and we all know that the combined effect of cholera, diarrhea, or hospital attendance is reduction in productivity in areas where there is no clean water. If they are farming community and there's no clean water and the farmers are suffering from diarrhea, they can go to the farm. And so productivity is reduced. In the urban areas like in major cities where there is diarrhea and cholera, it increases hospital cost. And so exacerbates what? Poverty. Money that you could have used for other things, you're now going to use it to go to hospital, which disease is preventable in the first place. So when Nana Addo Akufo-Addo said he intended to make Accra, which is the capital, has the largest population in this country, the cleanest city in Africa, not in Ghana, self. He said it in Africa. In Africa. The first time. In Africa. Yeah. The cleanest city in Africa. Yeah. We thought that, yes, that was ambitious. But there's no crime to be ambitious. If you achieve it, we are all happy. But, and they said in his first term, the budget that he submitted to Parliament did not give us that indication that he intended to make Accra the cleanest city in Accra, in Africa. That fed into the mantra, sloganeering. Okay, that look, planting for food and jobs. One district, one factory. 1 million per constituency. A farmer has just, a chief has just said that 1 million, one constituency is the greatest deceit, the biggest deceit of the century. You know, so making Accra the cleanest city in Accra is just akin to Kofo's first time mantra, the beautification of the what?
Capital city.
Capital city. And 8 years after Kofo, trees were not even planted on the roads. Flowers were not planted. Road markers were not done. Old houses were not painted. And how he intended to beautify Accra, we don't know. The same thing with this one. The same thing. Today, go around Accra, go around Nima, go to Agbogboloshi, go to the communities, the densely populated communities that clearly generate a lot of waste, which wastes are difficult to manage. Look at our drains. When we live here, just look at the big drain behind the studio. And everybody's waiting for the rains to come. Because the government has failed to clean it. So we're now relying on the rain to come and clean the dirt. Cecilia, the past says that on 24th April 2019, she said that the beautification of the capital city was going to be after the second term of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. After the second term. So that was a contradiction in terms. In fact, this is reported by Godwin Akwete Alote. Said, who said, I think from City or something, who said that the beautification was going to be after the second term? After the second term, not during the second term. By another government. After the second term. Now, when recently she appeared before Parliament, she said, oh, the beautification of the capital city is on course. Sena, the Minister of Sanitation says that, oh, and I will support her if she's going to, or making the Accra city the cleanest is on course. I will support her because I know the effect, devastating effect of sicknesses brought about largely by lack of sanitation has on the population. I mean, it's drain on the national coffers. The pressure it puts on our health facilities. The effect on productivity. So I know. So I will support her because I also know that such diseases brought about by lack of sanitation are preventable. And you prevent them by doing things that will ensure that flies, deaths do not accumulate and gather for the flies to go and land on them and move the germs from the death site onto our food and our waters. So it has been done. It has been done in other countries. That's why many people are advocating that we shouldn't have open drains. Yes, we should close the drains, cover the drains. Because if we have open drains, we are unable to clean the drains. But the reason is that we have not also cultivated the habit of disposing our waste properly. Yeah. And so we use the drains to dispose our waste. So when you go to the engineers, they argue, because I was privileged to be at the Ministry of Roads and Highways, they argue that, hey, if you cover your drains, they'll throw the dirt into the drains, and then your roads will all, you see what happened at Kaneshi. To block, and the water will come out of the road and to destroy the road. So we have not cultivated that habit. So, but like I said when I was contributing to Nkrumah and the Day of Shame, and let me say that Nkrumah says that action without thought is what? Is it foolish or nonsense? It says action without thought is empty. It's empty. And thought without action is blind. It's blind. So clearly, if you say you are doing, and I've always said, this government, like your mama said, is a government of thought. Doing things by in thought, small. You know the thing, thought. Government as we go. Because, even what is the blueprint on making Greater Accra City cleanliness in Africa? Where's the blueprint? For you and I to interrogate. You say, oh, they said they will do A, B, C, D. So what are the steps? And you and I following the steps. So we know that if we are able to follow through all the steps they have provided, we know that the end result will be a clean city. What is the blueprint? Or they have no desire to carry citizens along in making Accra the cleanest city. That is my fundamental problem with this government. In all the policies they are implementing, only they know how they are implementing the policies. Just think of any policy at all they are implementing. Only they know. There's no blueprint on anything. So we are just following. To yesterday, they announced that, oh, for once we'll not have the traffic lighting. Yeah. What is it?
The double track.
The double track. The first years will not have the double track. How they arrived at that, we don't know. But government, servant leaders, what they do is they put the programs before the people. Look, we endure this double track for now, but this is what we are doing. This is the blueprint. On this day, at this time, within this period, we hope that if these structures or institutional mechanisms are put in place, we will move on to cancel the so you and I can follow and hold them accountable. No, this government is not like that. So they will do what pleases them. And yeah, we also heard that the president has sacked about 1,000 or 100 security, the bulldogs, Burger Bulldogs, or what's their name? Vigilantes, those who were found in the security services. How he came to that decision, we don't know. So the same thing. That's why he could go and mount a platform and say that he's going to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa in his first term. And during his first term, his minister says that no. This is not about his first. I think after, not even during his second term. After his second term. And then the minister cannot give us a definitive time frame within which Accra can be clean. She then says that, oh, it's on course. It's on course. That's the problem. But on the whole, the ministers and their performance, almost all of them, I was only impressed a little about the minister whose ministry had not been created by EI, but who that minister, public enterprises. I could see.
I think Joseph Kujo.
Joseph Kujo. I could see clarity in what he wanted to do and how he intended to do it. And I shared in part of the things that he was saying. But most of the ministers were very candid with the truth. Very candid with the truth. And some came there to use it as a platform to apologize to President Mahama. So if you knew that insulting President Mahama is not right, why do you do that in the first place? And so, well, but Nana Akufo-Addo says he wants those ministers. It's left to Parliament to see what it will do, whether it feels satisfied that those ministers are otherwise capable, have the competence, qualified, in the nutshell, both objectively and subjectively, to be ministers of state.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me just do two messages. The first one is from Dennis Akwete, who says, as Uncle Kwesi Pratt used to say, fighting against society for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is like hitting one's feet or foot against a rock, and the problem will be one's leg or feet. Indeed, Dr. Nkrumah was in his own class par excellence, the kind Ghana may never have in thousands in 1,000 years until we repent as a nation for his overthrow, which was the greatest sin committed against the land. This is the hard truth, and the earlier we realize it, the better. It is good, however, to hear the likes of Mujib acknowledge the greatness of Dr. Nkrumah, except that his fraternity always used the inevitable weakness of the great man to run him down, an exercise they know very well cannot survive the winter. Kudos, however, to Uncle Kwesi Pratt for his relentless efforts to protect the legacy of the great man. Papa Bisio also sent quite an extensive one. Says, truth be told, His Excellency late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah built Ghana with a long-term master plan for the future of Ghana and beyond. But this UP traditional MPP used the USA and British governments to truncate all these goodies of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's vision via coup d'etat. Shame on the UP traditional MPP. Today, same children of UP, now grown-ups, have even become grandparents and are using some media houses to sell the image of Nkrumah and the very important visionary leader, His Excellency John Mahama, who can be described as the next Nkrumah of Ghana. They use these media houses to brainwash majority of innocent Ghanaians with the seats to vote for them in 2016 and 2020 elections. But trust me, they will never find that easy in 2024 election because Ghanaians know them now. Papa Bisi sent that from Accra. Mujib.
Thank you. But Sena, you know, that is the duty of the president imposed on him by the Constitution. Take Article 78 to appoint ministers to help him run his government. And I think that is substantive. And the same Constitution is telling that after the appointment, they have to go through Parliament. After the nomination, they have to go through Parliament for vetting and subsequent approval so that we can have. So that exercise is important and is constitutional requirement. So those who don't know will have to bear, because we are in a transitional period and a lot of things are not happening, but we have to satisfy the laws of the land before things can pick up. A lot of people are complaining that they go to the ministry, there's nothing that is going on there, because the ministers cannot, to some extent, act like that. They have to satisfy the laws. So that is where we are now. But coming to what we are all have been seeing and going on in Parliament, the questions and answer session, I think so far the appointment committee has been the best, because I have watched other appointment committees of Parliament. They have done their part and they were good at that time. But I think so far this one stands tall, because the reason is, I think that now the members research and they put their questions right, and then they make sure they ask the right questions and demand right answers. So and that is what we are seeing, because they have to understand, try to see the understanding of the nominee to the ministry he's been asked to go, and how in-depth that person is in terms of the happenings. And as ALHAJI said, to know the credibility of the person, there's a requirement in the Constitution. Certain things will have to be satisfied. That is by law, before you can even become a minister in Ghana. So I think that the exercise of Parliament is crucial to as to what they are doing. So it's very, very important. But so far, come to the nominees. The nominees, some have also exceptional, have done very well, and others too, you can't get it 100%. Others averagely have performed, and others are also lacking. But it is left with Parliament. I don't understand their criteria, how they final do it in terms of when they are about approving them. So I don't know what exactly they will be looking at after the person is qualified. When you go to 94 to thereabout, that is the basic. But the other requirement, I don't know how they will do it. But others, in reality, allow you to come to your point. I think the president, by the law, does not owe us explanation why he's appointing ALHAJI or is appointing me to this particular position. So we have not experienced that. But in 2017, the president decided to introduce that. That was why, if you see him here, he called the person, he now tell us why he's appointing that particular person into that portfolio. So, and I think that the president is the head, and he is watching his appointees' performance. So, ALHAJI, you may disagree with AOB in terms of how they have performed so far, maybe, but that may be contrary to what exactly the president is looking for. So, basically, if we take education, who was headed by Matthew Poku Prempeh, come to the implementation of the Free Senior Highs policy, I think the minister and his deputies and the staff have done very well in terms of that area. So you go to other ministries, for instance, Minister of Energy, who was headed by Amewu, has also done well. So I think the president knows why he still maintains some of them, and others he has dropped them, and then he knows why. But I think he doesn't owe us any explanation to that. But I think that it is good. So the onus lies on Parliament now, the appointment committee. And as I indicated, for instance, if we look at Godfrey Dami, Deputy Attorney General, who has now been nominated the substantive minister, getting the nod from Parliament, who had there, has done fantastic well. When he appeared before the committee, you saw the question and answer session. He was on top of issues as to the ministry he was going. Take my brother Abu Jinapo, designate for lands and forestry. ALHAJI, I think you have occupied there before, you understand. So accurate answers, knowledge of what ministry required and what is expected of the minister in that area. And he was phenomenal. So you take the many of them exceptional have done well, in my view, candid view. That is what I've said. And they have satisfied the basic law in the Constitution, because they are qualified to be members of Parliament. Indeed, most of them are members of Parliament. That is very critical. So now the committee will now be looking at the nitty-gritties. Do you have, how is it, does he have knowledge about where he's going? Can he be trusted? Can he do well for the people of this country? Can we entrust our resources on him? Those are now what Parliament will be looking at. But to the conclusion on when the Minister of Designate for Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, I think, I like the answer she gave. She said they are in the process of still making Accra cleaner city. But let's be very, very factual to ourselves. Alhaji, when it comes to issues of sanitation and distance, you know, we the citizens equal have 50% role to play in terms of making our environment and our cities clean, not only in Accra. Government will have to get the policy right. Government will have to find the resources. But the collaboration of the general public is fundamental attitude. We will, if we learn not to let our environment, we will not cost much to clean our environment. But when you go around the country, especially in Accra, my brother, what do you see? It is bad. Fault all over, throwing the people who clean the next day or the next week, 2 weeks, you go there, it's the same thing. Like, I think that the ministry, I will recommend to the minister, and they have to do a collaboration with National Civic for NCC and then Ministry of Local Government. I think that education is still key. We need to emphasize on education. Like, you'll be fooling somebody, the person will drink and just throw the rubber. When you try to draw the person's attention, if you are not lucky, the person will slap you. That is, you even now, through the ministry, when you drive through the Principal Street, you see container, robbers, dustbin has provided. Ask how many of us, after having drunk water or something, who have the energy to walk there and just dump it there. So all these things, we are the cause, and we know the dangers in living in a very filthy environment. And it must start from your own room. When your room is dirty, you don't clean your room, you know the consequences. Then your immediate gutters, when they are choked and there are a lot of all there, you don't clean it, it will breed mosquito. This mosquito will come to bite you and you will get malaria, you go to hospital. And you can die as a result of that. So it is very, very significant. Much as the pressure is on government to provide the resources and to provide the guidelines and the policy direction. But we, the citizens, it is our responsibility to also do what is expected of us. So collectively, we can all succeed to make our environment clear. So I perfectly agree with the minister. They are in the process. The truth is that it is not an event that you can achieve at a blow, even if you have the money. But it's a process. But I will also urge the minister, finally, if she gets the opportunity to be there, to involve the private sector. I think that will help us a lot, because the time Zoom Lion was so much in that area. Through, I think, Ministry of Local Government, it was far, far, far better and best than what we are experiencing now. So both areas, I think that we need to collaborate and make our country better. We can do it. Now back to that statement should go back. And Nkrumah said the black man is capable of doing his own, managing his own affairs. So why can't we make those who travel and get other people's city clean? It is not rocket science. It is discipline and the direction. And the leader responsibility is to provide the direction and provide the resources. Now we, the citizens, have to follow the direction and make sure we all achieve. That is exactly what we need to be doing as a people. But for the political trying to put blames in all those areas, that will not stop, because that is part of the game. Other than that, there were many, many, many issues that were raised that the past administration headed by former President John Dramani Mahama, it never materialized. And ALHAJI said there were a lot of issues at the Ghana Roads and Highway, the Transport and Roads Ministry, that could not achieve all before they leave. There are still issues that this government is battling with. So you go to the SADA and other areas that were very good intent, but they never manage it for the people to benefit the intention of that policy. So, but these are all the challenges we are facing. But I think that moving forward, we all have to have it at the back of the mind that we have a responsibility to create opportunity and make the system better for our people. If we fail them, posterity will judge all of us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mujib. Just a couple more of your messages. Charles Cardinal Pokwasi says, if there are any treacherous group in this country, then it is the elements of the Dangwabusia tradition. They have committed sacrilegious sin against this country. All their actions was to get chance to lose state resources. It is evidence today, very shamefully. It says the history in our textbooks today, from the upper primary to SHS, and Nkrumah clearly suggests Nkrumah is a dictator. This is how they are corrupting the minds of the young generation. This wrong history needs to be expunged from our textbooks in schools. Thank you for that message. Hadi in Pig Farm says, I think functionaries of the new Patriotic Party government, like my brother Mujib, need to understand. We the noble Ghanaians are not naive as they think. I urge my brother Mujib and his nagging People's Party to respect our intelligence more and stop insulting us. Mujib and his nagging People's Party should know that ALHAJI Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the best leader Manda Ghana has ever had. Take it or leave it. He says, okay, Tafaina Mahia, Sena. Okay, I said he's asking me to ask Honorable News Abstaining to explain why he said he's not interested in the NDC case at the Supreme Court. Angelo Kojefego says, Sena, don't just read, but I want honest understanding from Mr. Kwesi Pratt. I've been convincing my sister for years now to join the MPP so we can divide across the political parties. My sister called me on Monday and told me point blank that she cannot be part of those who always lie and I should stop pushing her to be a liar. Mr. Pratt, from the narration of my sister, I mean, okay, I don't know what he's supposed to answer, Angelo. Doc.
Thank you, Sena. I think the topic on if Accra is really on course to becoming Africa's cleanest city, I think we should start from home. Accra should first be the cleanest city in Ghana, and then we can move to Africa. I will advise or probably advocate for all of us to get involved. This is a thing of all of us. We should all get involved. I know governments have made efforts. Different governments have come and made efforts. The last one I remember very well was Mohammed's first Saturday in every month that we went out cleaning, that everyone was supposed to get to cleaning. And then I know NGOs, different NGOs focusing on environment and sanitation have also made some efforts. I will use this opportunity to shout out to the Center for Environment, Natural Resources and Sustainability. It's an NGO that's also taking care of the environment. We have individuals that have also made efforts. Now, for a minister to say Accra is on course to becoming the cleanest city in Africa. Now, the question everyone will ask is what is the strategy? Because we have had Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources in the past administration, and we still have it today. So what happened in the last 4 years? What was their achievement in terms of sanitation? I don't think we can have any significant thing to show that this is the effort that the ministry made. It's a whole Ministry of Sanitation. So one will expect that we see significant progress towards making actually Ghana clean. But then we know also that sanitation, we have Department of Sanitation under the local government. I think every assembly has this department. I know how they worked together, but I see duplication of effort, and you know this is very, MPP, they are very good at it. Duplicating efforts, probably an avenue of create and loot, maybe. But of course, it's supposed to be a good effort towards this cleaning. One thing I also see is that per the attitude of Ghanaians, this is going to be a difficult exercise. Yes, we can have policies, we can have strict rules of wanting to keep Ghana clean. Let me put it as Ghana clean. But I think that we should do this exercise from the next generation, the kids that we have, from nursery, KG, that level. Teach them from school how to keep the environment clean, how to dump rubbish in dustbins and not throw them about. If we start from there, it becomes part of our moral culture, and then they will grow with it. At this age, Ghanaians, it's very difficult to tell a Ghanaian. An ordinary Ghanaian doesn't know why I have finished drinking water, bottle or sachet, and I shouldn't throw it out. Ordinary Ghanaian doesn't know or doesn't think that I have to keep it in my bag for any reason, to drop it in a bin. So we have this situation where we need massive education. We need massive education. Aside that, we need to start from scratch in training our kids. We have other countries that has practiced that, but sincerely, Ghana, if we have to bring such rules, such strict laws, whichever government is going to get strict or serious opposition. We can learn from the model of Rwanda, Kigali. A citizen will arrest you. It's not even going to get to the next level. An ordinary citizen will report you for dropping rubbish on the ground somewhere, somehow. Kigali is so clean. We can emulate that model also in Ghana. So now, for a minister to say this, we want to see the strategy, the roadmap, so we can all follow. And as ALHAJI said, it is very known of the MPPs. They sit in their corner and they bring out slogans that we have done this, we are going to do that. And then we don't see anything happening. And the next moment, then we have a report, we did this, we did that, without any results to be shown. Or maybe we see a very small result and it's kind of projected as if that is all that there is to be done. So I think the most important thing is that we need a roadmap, then we can all follow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. First, this is from Elom, who says, good morning. Kwesi Pratt mentioned a book in the program for 27th February 2021. Okay, I think it says The Great Deception. How can I get one? I was reading it when I was younger, but couldn't understand. I'm now matured, and after the mention, it sparked the interest in me. Thank you. Can you get it at Freedom Bookshop?
No, Freedom Bookshop.
Okay.
Near Apollo Theatre.
Okay. So Freedom Bookshop near Apollo Theatre, you can get that book there.
Or if he gets a copy of the Inside, the telephone number for the Freedom Bookshop is in there. Okay. You can call them.
Okay. So alternatively, the Inside newspaper, whenever it comes out daily. So you can get the Inside newspaper. You find the number of the Freedom Book Center and you can give them a call and they will direct you. Komala Ganya says nominations of same non-performing, dishonest and arrogant people to be approved as ministers again is the highest form of disrespect. Sapiagbo says, Uncle Kwesi Pratt, tell them the proper history of Ghana. Their careers of twisted history skewed to maintain their lies against Nkrumah. Uncle Kwesi, I want to appeal to you to use your forum and start a petition to revoke the name of Kotoka for our international airport and rename it after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And also revoke the name of Obeche Bilam to remove it from the flyover or circle named after him. Why on earth should we name national edifices after terrorists? It beats my imagination. Kofi Nyade says, yes, Mr. Pratt, those who don't know the true history of the wickedness of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's opponents should shut up and learn. Abu Gajan says, Nkrumah was the foundation of Ghana as a whole. When the foundation of a building is weak, the building cannot stand for a time to come. Are we not experiencing it under the last 4 years? How soon have we forgotten our history? Mr. Pratt.
Well, look, I honestly think that NDC members of parliament, especially NDC members of parliament on the appointments committee, have a special burden. If anything goes wrong with the vetting and appointment of ministers, it will be blamed on NDC. Finish. The New Patriotic Party has no burden. The members of parliament of the New Patriotic Party have no burden at all. The burden is squarely on NDC members of parliament. And the earlier they realized it, the better it will be for the whole country. You see, NDC members of parliament on the appointments committee and in parliament generally must understand in clear terms that their vote, the power they exercise in parliament, does not belong to them. It belongs to the electorate who have given it to them to go to parliament and work on their behalf. If they start thinking that their vote belongs to them, if they start thinking that the power they exercise in parliament belongs to them and not the electorate, they will be shocked at the next elections. The next elections are only 4 years away, and everybody is watching them very closely. They will be shocked to realize that even their primaries will be very tough for them if they don't behave properly in parliament. If they go to parliament and make all kinds of unreasonable and foolish compromises, leading to the approval of persons that everybody can see are not fit to be ministers and so on, they will bear the full consequences. Of course, they must know their party better than me. They must know the mood in their party better than I am. I'm only urging them to be guided by the mood of their party and party members. And also, ultimately, the national interest. If you go and sit on the appointments committee, or you go and sit in parliament, and make all kinds of hanky-panky deals, and approve ministers, not new ministers, ministers who have been in office before, whose performance everybody knows, and they go and they repeat their performance, who are you going to blame? In the next election, would you have the moral courage to come and tell us that things didn't go well when you are the people who approved them and put them there? NDC members of parliament should look sharp. Listen, my brother, there is something that I have never been able to understand. Maybe ALHAJI Yunusa Fuseni can understand. Me, I can't understand. I've watched vetting of ministerial appointees from 1992. Every time, when the appointments committee meets, we know who has been approved and who has not been approved. As we sit here, the appointments committee has gone through more than 20 ministers. And yet you haven't heard of any decision to approve or to disapprove. What are they waiting for? You know, this situation has led to some speculation. Many people are sitting on 10,000, they're asking, but how come that the deliberations have been going on all this time, and it appears that no decision has been taken yet as to who has been approved and who has not been approved? I know many members of the appointments committee who are on the appointments committee. They are my friends, you understand? From both sides. I talk to them. I want to believe that they are as decent as I see them. I want to believe that they will do the right thing. But on the ground, the grumblings have started. The grumblings have started that somebody may be playing a game. It is up to them to prove those grumblings wrong. It's up to them to prove those grumblings wrong. My brother, all of us, whether we are in parliament or we are journalists or we are doctors or we are whatever, we have our biases and personal interests, all of us. In fact, the four of us on this panel this morning, all of us have our biases and so on. the mark of a public officer, the distinguishing mark of a public officer, is when we are able to rise above these biases and preferences and so on and act in the national interest. Look, this vetting is happening in the full glare of the public. We are seeing those who are lying on oath. We are seeing them. You can't hide it. Everybody knows who lied on oath. Everybody knows those who haven't got a grasp of the ministries for which they have been appointed. We all see it. Everybody sees the few who are performing excellently and so on. Don't let any member of parliament think that they are smarter than the rest of us. They are not. It is because 3 million people cannot go to parliament. That is why we chose 275. So they are there representing 30 million people. And that must not be lost on them. Nobody is going to accept any games. Nobody is going to accept any games. And they must understand that. In this matter, the NDC is disadvantaged. The NDC is disadvantaged because as for the MPP members of parliament, this is what their president has presented. And going by the norm and so on, nobody is expecting MPP MPs to go against their president. Indeed, the people of Ghana were so excited when we got the equation we have in parliament, 137-137. And people thought that this would give the NDC an opportunity to demonstrate what they are capable of. If the NDC throws this chance away, why would anybody vote for them again? If the NDC does not exercise this power in the interest of the people of Ghana and goes and makes deals and so on, it will be up to them. You understand what I'm saying? If the NDC does not make use of the power it has gotten from the numbers in parliament to do the right thing, to do what is in the national interest, and it goes and engages in all kinds of deals and so on, why? Do you think that the people of Ghana are fools? You think that the members of the National Democratic Congress are fools? You think that the grassroots people who campaign to make you MPs, they are fools? Let them take note. My brother Mujib has made the point that this vetting perhaps is the best so far. I agree. If you look at the quality of questions and so on, the research that members of parliament have done and so on, I think that this is one of the best vettings that we have had. And we should congratulate parliament for an excellent job. But what is the point of doing all this research, asking relevant questions and so on, if at the end of the day you are going to approve everybody? What is the point? What is the point of doing all this research and so on, if at the end of the day, what is going to be considered will be personal interest, personal biases, and so on? The NDC members of parliament must understand in clear terms that the responsibility on their shoulder is a huge one and that they ought to discharge it with excellence. I think they can do it. I hope they can do it. I want to see them do it. But if they don't, there will be serious consequences. Now, Sena, with your permission, with your permission, because I know that what I'm going to discuss now is not on the list of topics. But there's an issue which came up yesterday. And I think it's so very important for the right of free expression in our country that we cannot overlook it. Last night, I got a statement signed by Sorrow.
Sorry at law.
Sorry
okay.
and
at law, yeah.
At law. Yeah. On behalf of the Judicial Service. Yeah. And to all intents and purposes, I read it as a threat to the Ghanaian media. And I think that statement should be withdrawn as quickly as possible. It's an affront to the right of free expression. That statement is inimical to the development of a free and independent media in Ghana, and it should be withdrawn as quickly as possible. I am worried by the fact that the whole judicial service has to employ the services of an external lawyer to issue a statement. To issue a statement. What is the judicial secretary doing? If the judicial service has to issue a statement, why is the statement not coming from the judicial secretary? That statement which was issued yesterday is unprecedented. I've never seen it before. It has never been done in our history. And I wonder what the true motives are. You understand? Besides, that statement betrays the lack of communication skills in the judiciary. I finished reading that statement, and I'm wondering, what is the statement talking about? What conduct amounts to contempt? What conduct amounts to holding the judiciary in unfavorable light and so on? I'm totally confused. That statement tells us absolutely nothing. Indeed, the only purpose that statement serves is to warn the media to be careful about media commentary and publishing media commentary. Now, me, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school like ALHAJI, Mr. Fuseni, and the rest of them. But what I know as a journalist is that when the courts have made decisions, the people of Ghana are entitled to criticize those decisions. Decisions of the court are not decisions of God. Decisions of the court are subject to criticism. And indeed, only last week, I was reading criticisms of our sitting president of the Supreme Court in a certain case, where our sitting president makes the point that the court was wrong in law, and that the court had no business coming to the conclusions that it came. That is within his rights as a lawyer and as a citizen of Ghana. Indeed, one of the cardinal principles that must be upheld by our judiciary and everybody is the principle of equality of citizens. It's a cardinal principle. The principle of equality of citizens and so on recognizes that those who sit on the Supreme Court, the judges and so on, have a certain responsibility. The Constitution gives them the power of arbitration. The Constitution gives them the power to interpret the Constitution itself and so on. That is their privilege. You understand? But they act on behalf of the citizens of Ghana. Without the citizens of Ghana, that Supreme Court has no power. The powers they exercise are the powers of the people of Ghana. And if they exercise the powers of the people of Ghana, why can't the people of Ghana comment on their decisions? The people of Ghana are entitled as of right to praise and to criticize any of the judicial institutions in our country. And this attempt to threaten us will not wash. Look, the current dispensation was fought for by citizens. Why? Some time ago, we had national public tribunals which existed outside the judicial system. Their decisions were not subject to review even by the Supreme Court and so on. The people of Ghana, the progressive forces of Ghana and so on, came together and fought for this dispensation. Fought for this democratic dispensation which empowers Supreme Court judges and other judges to sit in arbitration and to interpret the laws of our country. Those who fought, some of them died in defense of the freedom of expression. Some of them died in defense of the rule of law and so on. And we will be guided by the spirit of that struggle for freedom. Nobody can intimidate us. Nobody can frighten us into silence. And if they want to send us to prison for speaking out in defense of justice and the right of free expression, they are welcome to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we have 4 minutes to.
A judicial decision, whether by a trial judge sitting alone or a panel of judges, as in the case of the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, both in the exercise of its ordinary jurisdiction or review jurisdiction, it's an expression of an opinion. It's an opinion. So opinion is an expression of their opinion or the judge's opinion on what the law is. The judge's opinion too is not sacrosanct. It's not. The judges can fail to take into consideration matters that it ought to have taken into consideration, or took into consideration matters that should not have agitated his or her mind in arriving at a decision, or simply did not follow precedent. And that is why criticism of a judge's opinion or the judgment is intended to improve upon the law. And so when you go to the faculties, I don't know, that's why sometimes I don't want to talk too much. When you go to the faculties, they use stronger, the lecturers, you people, I'm sure even in your physics class, you use stronger language if somebody says something which clearly doesn't follow logic. They use stronger language. I don't know whether the Tediosaurus letter will extend to the faculties. Because when the lecturer is lecturing and he disagrees strongly with the position of the court on a matter, they use very strong language. Very, very strong language. And so, well, let's see what happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for saying let me just do 1 or 2 messages and then a couple of things before we go. Okay, so Abubakar Al-Hassan says, good morning. I think Kwesi Price should know that the country is governed by law. I'm strongly behind the judiciary, the judicial service. Those media houses should behave. Else, interesting. Woodman Odami says, God bless you, Mr. Pratt. We, the NDC supporters, are watching you guys from Hartford. Juliana Belinda Lamtirobri says, Hosea 8 verses 7. Posterity will judge them one by one. Calm yourself down, you say. Sapia says the threat to freedom of the press and freedom of the speech can only happen under the presidency of Akufo-Addo. This has never happened before. It just goes to buttress the fact that the judiciary is under the... Okay. Rauf Yaya says it's truly the... Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those messages. Let me just say a big thank you to Jarins once again. Jarins Breakfast and Snacks Bar. Jarins Breakfast and Snacks Bar. They provided our snacks this morning. A big thank you to them. You can give them a call on 0546 695 087, 0546 695 087, and 0204 162 645. Now, let me also say that yesterday was the first premiere edition of the KSM show on Pan-African television. So now, every Friday at 9 p.m., you get to watch the KSM show on Pan-African television. So do make a date. And then also, that means that Mr. Kwesi Price's talk time comes on today at 9 p.m., I believe. 8 p.m. Okay. So at 8 p.m. today, you watch talk time hosted by Mr. Kwesi Price Jr. on Pan-African television. It used to be Friday. He seeded that time too. The KSM show. So now it comes to Saturday, this evening. So you have 2 big shows on Pan-African TV that you can't miss. ALHAJI and ALHAJI is done. So the next one is talk time. Do make a date today. And also, I'd like to say belated happy birthday. They say you should say to Godwin Eduji Kujo Tamakolo. Esquire. Happy belated happy birthday to you, and also to Jofi Sikai. A belated happy birthday to you too. Let me say a big thank you to Mr. Kwesi Pagina, who's managing editor of the Insight News. It was wonderful to have him on the show. Dr. Nanama Brown Kluche, who is a lecturer at the Physics Department of the University of Ghana. And then sitting right by her is Mujib Rahman, who is a member of the MPP's communication team, and very close to me is ALHAJI Inusa Husseini, who is former member of parliament for Tamale Central. A big thank you to you for sharing your views and for sticking and watching us. A big thank you to Amuto 92.3 FM, Global FM, and also to Volta One TV and other, among other platforms, Radio Kitaon, one of the several platforms that broadcasted us live. We are very grateful to. We are back same time next week in another edition of the show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. The week that follows, may it be fruitful for you, and I'll see you back here next week, hopefully, by the grace of God. My name is Sena Nombo.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.